Hey everyone, my name is Lindsay. Welcome to Library of Lindsay. Today we're going to be talking about bookbinding and what materials that you will need to get started. Hopefully at the end of this video you will understand the total cost that you will need to start rebinding books. And just to be a little bit transparent, this is what I mean by that. So this is a copy of The Assassin's Blade that I rebound. This book I took from the store, removed the covers, and made my own hardcover and designs. So when I talk about rebinding, this is what I mean. Before we get started, I do want to mention I have an Amazon storefront link in the description of this video. I do earn commissions from that, so I do want to be transparent about that. But basically, this has all of the materials that I have used personally, all in one place. This video was filmed before the Amazon boycott, so if you don't want to use Amazon, like I am currently not using Amazon, I totally get that. I will say that this Amazon storefront could be potentially used just to see what type of resources I got, but I highly recommend just checking out your local craft stores and shopping locally instead of using my Amazon link. What I have found within bookbinding is that there are three main components. Preparing your text block, which basically means preparing the text that you actually want to keep in the book, making the hardcover, and then designing the hardcover. And then at the end, you would glue it all together. At the end of this video, you will have a better sense of what it costs to get started with this hobby. For the first step, which is preparing your text block, I have an example here of what I mean by that. So basically, this is a now faceless book that I have prepped. So I don't know if you can see, but there's some book mule. There are pretty end papers that I added to prep this text block to be created and glued into a hardcover. Materials that you will need to prepare your text block include book mule. This material reinforces the back of the text block. Decorative end papers, and when I say that, those are going to be cardstock or something thicker than your normal paper material. Toothpicks and some book cloth. This should be the same book cloth that you're going to be using to create the hardcover. And when I say book cloth, it's a specific type of cloth, so you can't just go to the fabric store and purchase this from like Joann Fabrics. I tried that. Book cloth has a paper back that prohibits glue from seeping through. And you'll need a little piece of this for each of the toothpick things that I will be talking about. A ruler, ideally metal, so that it lasts, because you're going to be using a knife to cut a lot of things, so that ruler being metal is super important. A cutting knife and some scissors. So I have a knife that I use to cut board, as well as scissors that I use to help cut paper and other things like that. Bookbinder's glue. This glue will also be used in other processes as well, so you'll be using glue in every single step in this process. It's bookbinder's favorite thing. You'll need parchment paper, and this is something I learned along the way, so I just wanted to give you some of that knowledge. Parchment paper is really good for resisting the stickiness of glue. So if you don't want two pages to end up glued together, like for example, if you have end papers that are sitting like this, you put parchment paper in between, so that way the end papers don't stick together. You'll need some brushes, which I use silicone brushes because I don't want the bristles to actually stick together. These brushes will be used throughout the entire process as well. With gluing, you'll be using them to glue everything together. And obviously the actual book itself. So whether that's a thrifted book or a book you bought at a bookstore, you will need that to get started. Everything for step one, preparing the text block, would cost approximately $75 is what I paid. And this does not include the price of the book. So if you're buying a brand new hardcover, buying a brand new paperback, it might be a little bit more than that. If you're thrifting, it might be a few more bucks. But on average, I paid $75. So that's what it should take for you to get started for preparing the text block. All right, we're on to step two, which is actually making the hardcover. I have an example. This is what I mean when I say we are making the hardcover. This is going to be the end product. So basically the text block that we were talking about will go sit right in here and you'd glue it together. But this is the hardcover. This is what I'm talking about when I say step two. Things you'll need to make the hardcover. You'll need some bookbinding board. You'll need some type of press. When I first started, I used heavy books and a weight as my press, so no need to get fancy with this. Some book cloth. I actually ordered mine from a store called Hollander's, but now I order most of mine from Amazon because the quality is a little bit better. I hate to say that out loud, but it's true. I'm trying to find another small business I can support, but the material of the book cloth that I have been getting from Amazon is a little bit better than Hollander's, unfortunately. And book cloth, as I said, but I'm just going to say it again, book cloth is basically cloth that is backed by some type of paper, preventing the book glue from seeping through. You also need what's called a bone folder. This is just a tool that helps you get those creases really nicely for a lot of the folding things that you'll need to be doing. For step 2, which is creating the hardcover, I paid $51. This assumes that you're using book cloth and not a leather material. The final step is actually decorating your hardcover. I also want to preface here that if your goal is just to create hardcovers for your books and you don't want to decorate it, you could stop at step 1 and step 2. If you want to continue on and actually create the pretty design as you see here on Assassin's Blade, this is what you will need to do that. You will need a vinyl cutting machine. I use Cricut. You will need heat transfer vinyl, which usually lasts more than one book. You will need some type of heat press. This can be an iron if you're just getting started. Cricut also does sell their own heat presses, but they're a little bit expensive. There are some knockoffs on Amazon as well. You'll need some type of heat barrier protectant. So I have Teflon sheets that I use as kind of that barrier. So when you're ironing something on or pressing something on, you have that heat barrier to protect the book cloth from being burned. Some type of vinyl picker, which is what we call a weeder. And so basically this will pick up all the excess vinyl that you don't want to iron onto your book cover. You will need a computer of some sort to be able to communicate with your vinyl cutting machine, as well as either upload designs, create designs, etc., as well as a mat for your Cricut to be able to actually insert it into the Cricut and have it cut on the mat, an actual design for your book. Whether that's a design you purchase on Etsy, I happen to sell some of my designs on Etsy, whether that's a design you make yourself or something you make quickly on like graphics on Cricut Design Space, totally up to you, but you need some type of design to actually put onto the book. And finally, for step 3, which is actually decorating the hardcover, I paid $330. Which I know is a lot of moolah. The majority of that being the actual price of the Cricut machine, as well as the price of the Cricut press that I purchased. It was a handheld one. You could use an iron and save $50 to see if you wanted to test this out. That's a easy $50 in savings right there if you want to try with an iron instead of a heat press. The heat press is just a little bit easier to use. So my grand total, which by the way does not include the price of my iPad for designing my designs, it does not include the price of my computer. I already had those two things before I got started. The grand total that I paid was $460. That's the amount it cost for me to get started. This cost has not been recurring. And I want to emphasize that with this hobby. It is a high overhead cost, but the majority of these items you'll be able to use over and over and over again. Yes, are you going to need a different color vinyl or a different color book cloth or maybe some more glue every now and again? Yes, of course. But the majority of the items that you are purchasing to start this hobby, you will continue to keep and use throughout the hobby. I hope this helps you all hopefully find a new hobby, even if it's a little bit expensive in the beginning. I know that not everyone can afford to do this, and that's why I wanted to make this video, because I feel like no one talks about the cost associated with rebinding books. People just start looking into it and realize, oh, I'm not going to pay $250 for a Cricut machine. I wanted to be that person on the internet that broke everything down, shared what I paid to get started, and hopefully made this a little bit more transparent for you. So either if this is something or is not something you want to do, at least now you know how much it'll cost on average. All right, have a good one, everyone. See you on the next one. Bye.